RugbyRenegade.com, the #1 online strength and conditioning program for rugby. Are you ready to get bigger, stronger, fitter, and faster and dominate your opposition? Welcome to the Rugby Renegade Podcast, where we build machines.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Rugby Renegade Podcast. My name's Jamie Bain and today I interview Rugby League strength coach Keegan Smith. Keegan's a great guy, worked with some of the top clubs in Rugby League, and some of the players he's mentioned he's worked with goes into depth. His work with Sonny Williams and Jared Hayne, just to name a few. Unfortunately, and I do apologise for this, but Keegan's based in Australia and I'm over in the UK, and at the start the audio is really bad. You can get little bits out of it, but please persist with it, because after the first couple of minutes when the audio kicks in, it's fine, it's perfect the rest of the way through, and there's so much good information about training, Rugby League, again his work with Sonny Bill, so really good interview, and please persist with it, and then let us know what you think. Hi Keegan, welcome to the Rugby Renegade Podcast. Great to have you on. Keegan, just to start, why don't you start by sort of telling us the rugby clubs you've worked at and some of the athletes you worked with as well outside of rugby?
Yeah, right. I started while I was still at university, interning as does for most guys. I had to work with paramedics at that stage, so guys in the Rugby League, the chance to work with James Lyon, Jared Hayne, who's just been in the NFL, and now trying to go to the Olympics and start with Fiji. It was a big story constantly down here in Australia. So it started out sort of interning and working with juniors, and then eventually running some of the pre-season gym work with the Eagles in my early 20s, and then spent the next sort of 6-7 years actually travelling the world and didn't do too much work with league. Well, actually I did a year there with the London Broncos. Big massage and sort of assistant strength and conditioning coach as a young guy. Then I took to travelling and came back to it at 28 and stepped in with Carolina Dragons and worked there in the European Super League for a couple of years. We had a couple of good seasons, and that sort of brought the opportunity to move together with head coach Trent Robinson back to the Roosters in the NRL. So we signed Sonny Williams shortly after that, which was really great to have the opportunity to work with him and a lot of the really top guys in Rugby League. We had a really good team, and we managed to win pretty much everything during those 2 years, which was it was an exciting time. But I guess it wasn't 100% on my passion, and I sort of always saw the elite teamwork as being a spring to a bigger mission, a bigger journey, and sort of, since then I've built my own movement project. I'm sure we'll get to. Currently, after that, I had a consulting role with the West Tigers, and now work with a player management group, guys at Hill, who have some top NRL guys, but juniors, and we facilitate their development through private channels. Sort of what we're up to now.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. You obviously loads of experience and work with some great athletes there. And I'd like to touch on what you said about when you went travelling, because I've read about this a little bit. You went travelling and you kind of did things that perhaps other S&C coaches wouldn't do. Do you want to sort of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, probably the majority of people don't get the opportunity that I had there. And I do really feel super grateful and thankful for the time that I was able to spend 3 years in Latin America, as well as a couple of years, a few years in Europe, France and England and Germany. That was in Latin America. It was really I guess, the journeys of a rebellious young man trying to figure out, what the role is in the world, and what part I was going to play in making the world a better place. And so I worked with a lot of community development programs, local agriculture initiatives, and some women's empowerment groups. And we were trying to get organic farming projects, local sustainability projects, and I'm still passionate about all those things. But I guess it was stepping away from my studies in exercise science and that strength and conditioning gave me a bit broader perspective on what elite sport's about, and I guess where it all fits in the bigger picture of society, and having a positive impact on the world. Like, I came back to it, I guess, a bit more mature from some of those challenges. There was probably a few too many near-death experiences, and tough times, sleeping on hard floors in poor places. That, I guess, had a big impact on who I am, and probably gave me a little bit more confidence and resilience when it came back to dealing with the challenge of professional sport.
And how do you think that that changed you as a strength coach as well?
I think definitely more holistic. Constantly trying to breathe, trying to think, and I do believe that I have quite a different perspective on performance to the majority of coaches, just purely based on those challenges and that experience. It's about the life context of the athlete and even of the society that we're part of. Like, players know that there is that bigger context behind why I'm doing what I do and how I'm trying to support and influence them. And I think that that relationship and that connection is always the fundamental of performance. Any performance coach should tell you that your connection to the athlete is going to be your key to success with them. And I guess the connection is just on different wavelengths when they know that really trying to influence them as a person and for the impact they're going to have in society and the way they deal with their family and friends. And, deeply into the nutrition stuff. Like, I know everyone talks about nutrition, and mostly sports nutrition. Most nutrition is absolute bullshit and a massive distraction from what most athletes should be thinking about, which is eating real food. And the foundation, I guess, of most athlete nutrition is shit. And then we're looking at trying to put icing on the cake with nutrition, supplements, place protein shakes, around workouts and whatever. But what are they actually? What's the majority of what they're eating? What's the energy that food? Where the soil is grown in? If you don't research into soil science and understand, the difference between food that's grown in healthy soil and food that's grown in unhealthy soil, then you really don't know anything about nutrition. And when we get to that stuff with players and we help them to make some shifts in those areas, big things happen. The results are pretty clear for themselves. That was by no means with 100% adherence and change. It was a 2-year journey. But the team go from coming 13th to year 4 to winning the minor premiership, the premiership, the World Cup challenge, and the minor premiership the following year. We won the club championship as well. The club hadn't had that sort of success, ever. But we also broke an all-time defensive record in the NRL, the number of zeros that we kept other teams to. So there was some stuff there in the wash-up, and there's never one factor. You have to deal with the player as a complete unit as well, and that was a big thing that Trent Robinson, the head coach, really believed in as well, and that's why I think we worked well together. And he was really about treating as one of not having all the different stages trying to get their piece of the pie at the consequence of the athlete or the consequence of pieces. Often everyone's competing to get their thing done. It's like what they're doing is the most important of the speed coach and the strength coach, the skills, and it's all kind of everyone's fighting for the athlete, whereas everyone wants that integrated approach, but it's very difficult to get. And I think we went further with it than a lot of professional teams do. And it was exciting to see how much players changed, how much changed, how they moved, how they felt, how they thought about themselves, how they treated each other, who they want to be, who they're going to be after footy, where they are in society. We created a powerful environment there, and the results went with it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you get that environment right and that culture's a word used quite a lot. If you get that right, everything else falls into place.
There was amazing. Like, it's not. It can't come down to one person. One person can't create an environment that powerful winning environment. But like the culture that was created there, the buzz that was around the training games, the belief that they had in the club as a whole, as a unit, and each component of it, it was pretty special. Belief is belief is a powerful thing when you've got it on your side. Abraham Lincoln had one of the best quotes, and he's a guy who did a few things and got remembered. He said that to believe in things you can see and touch is no belief at all. To believe in the unseen is a blessing and a triumph, and that's what it's about. Like when you can believe deeply in things that you can't quite tangibly prove, that's when you're really going to kick some ass. And people call me out, all the time about, where's the science behind this, and where's the double-blind studies with 50 drunk college students that prove that what you're talking about is true. You're never going to find that data, and I'm not looking for that data, to be honest. The data is what we saw there, and anyone who actually takes it on and experiences what life is like when you apply the principles that we're talking about, you don't need someone to prove it to you with a scientific life's too complex for scientific studies to ever truly capture the complexity of the interactions of all the things that go into being as elite as possible, being the best version of yourself. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Now, obviously, at the Roosters, that was after your kind of sabbatical and travelling, was it? Am I right?
Yeah. So it wasn't so much a break. It was something that had to happen. But yeah, that was just 2013, 2014. So not too far back.
Yeah. And do you think that was like kind of the combination of obviously years' experiences at other places that kind of brought in with your travelling experience as well? That's what kind of led to you getting that right environment. Obviously, I know you said you're not the only one who's involved in that, but yeah,
I mean, I think I grew up a lot during that time. When I went into France, the Catalan Dragons, I'd spent, I left home when I was 21, and I was 28, so I'd done a lot of travel, and during that time I lived in the desert in the middle of Australia for 6 months. I'd lived in Guatemala and working in orphanages, and it was a very different life. And I arrived to France not really knowing if I could handle being a strength and conditioning coach. I hadn't done it in 7 years, so and I'd only been an assistant at those stages. And as much as I took quite a lot of responsibility when I was in London, I was glad to be given that responsibility with their weights and bits and pieces. But it was a long time in between. If you can imagine, I'd started a lot of projects in Latin America and worked as a youth worker with Indigenous communities in Australia. And it was difficult to stick those things out. And going to France, I didn't know if I could stick it out. So that was kind of the first test. I didn't know if I'd be there 3 months and then just pack my bag and, wander off backpacking again, because that's kind of what I'd done with a lot of the challenges that I'd faced. There were things that I just couldn't deal with and couldn't change all through those journeys. So that's kind of what I expected, or half expected, in France. I was really glad that I was actually just able to stick it out for a year. I would only sign a 1-year deal. They wanted to sign 2 years, but I only really wanted a deal because I was just I just didn't know if I could be able to handle it. Unfortunately, I said Trent Robinson, who was the head coach, and you can imagine what most head coaches would say if you said anything like that to him. But he sort of knew that I was, I'd been through all that stuff, and I don't know, he saw something in me, and I still don't really know why I was fortunate enough to get that opportunity. But I learned a lot in those 2 years. I wasn't going in as an experienced coach who'd been working underneath a lot of great coaches. I had a great mentor at Parramatta, Hayden Knowles. He works with the Roosters now. He went in there as I left. But he's been, worked under my dad for 10 years. My dad's an NRL coach. So I'd always been in that environment. I guess that probably stood me in good stead for it as well. Things changed a lot over those 2 years at Dragons. And just before I came back to work with the Roosters, I actually went and spent 10 days with Phil Richards. So I imagine a number of your audience would know Phil Richards. He's prominent sort of coach. Yep, you know him. So, I spent 10 days with him. I was actually meant to fly out and do the Poliquin PICP 3 and 4 in Rhode Island before their split and all that. But that was when the cyclones hit and I couldn't fly. So I looked for an alternative, and I actually went from Germany, where I'd spending some time with my wife's family in Germany, and I flew to Wales to spend 10 days with Phil before I went back to Australia. And he kicked the shit out of me in a way. He really did shift me a little bit with what I was going to do going into the Roosters. And I went in there with quite a similar approach to what he'd done. Without having seen what he'd done, he explained a lot of it to me. And we used like a conjugate sort of West Side influenced template there, especially that first year at the Roosters. And I went back, and I was definitely much more aggressive and assertive with the Roosters group initially. And we yelled and screamed and just about knocked the whole building down. The accounting department was just above the gym, and one of our first sessions we maxed out clean and jerks, and guys hadn't done that much clean and jerking before. But they were seeing what each other were doing, and we taught technique the best we could, and things if the lift was safe, then we kept it going. And one of the guys clean and jerked 120 kilos, which is not a mass lift by any means. But early in our first preseason, that was something that most of the Roosters guys had never seen before, and they jumped all over each other, and nearly tore the building down. And the accounting department didn't know what was going on, but it kind of became a bit of a normal thing that there was a lot of energy in the gym, and I encouraged that emotion and expression. And initially, I guess a lot of it came from me yelling and screaming and carrying on. And I'm naturally more of an introverted, quiet sort of guy. Like it's I never used to like public speaking or dealing with a group of rugby players was pretty intimidating for me. But I had to be who I had to be to get things done there, and that's who those players needed. And I'll always be grateful for the influence that Phil had on just the way I programmed and the way I ran the environment. And I know that that's a big part of why I was able to have that result. And I've said it to Phil a number of times, but hopefully it gets back to him again from this, because I'm always going to be grateful. I know that a lot of great things have come for me off the back of those results and what we did there.
Yeah, that's cool. And now you've got a unique insight in that you've worked in rugby in the UK, you said at Catalan, and also in Australia. Culturally, is there any difference, or is the rugby environment just the rugby environment wherever you go?
It's always different, but it's always going to be different between teams and coaches, and everywhere's got its history and its energy, between different cities. And it's definitely very different. It was great to work with the French guys, to be honest. I really loved working with the French juniors there, and it was good to see, quite a few of the guys actually ended up becoming Super League players, and they hadn't had too much success with their young kids coming through. And we had a batch there, that some of them are playing now and getting some good results with the Dragons, but quite a lot of them got to England and are playing over there. I love working with those guys. I think, and I don't know, a lot of English people spend a bit of time in the south of France, but it's almost like stepping back in time. Like, family units are really close, and the guys are like really close mates. Like, it's almost coming from Australian culture, you'd almost question sexuality, like they're that close. You can see they really love each other, and they just express it more than, what would be socially acceptable, I think, in Australia. And England's probably a little bit more aggressive in some ways in the way people relate to each other in the rugby league environment. But like I really love that in the south of France. Roosters was actually it was almost a Kiwi. We had a lot of New Zealand guys, guys with Polynesian backgrounds. So the Aussies were kind of the exception almost, and I enjoyed that too. I'm a guy who's travelled a lot, so I probably wouldn't have gone to any other job in rugby league other than the one in France, because it meant that I was going to be speaking French, as my first language. I'd learned Spanish during my travels and, bits of German, and I wanted the challenge of, learning French. So, I took that on, and, I loved that. And I guess coming back to work in Australia, it was nice to have a lot of guys from other backgrounds, and, a lot of them had sort of impoverished or tough backgrounds, somewhat similar to some of the places where I'd been travelling, and I think that helped me to identify with the guys and connect maybe a little bit more, or just have a little bit more empathy for where they're coming from. I think it's probably not my strong point, but your compassion and your empathy for players, I believe, is the key now. The old school style of drill sergeant and just respect my authority. You're going to do what I tell you to do, and you're going to win because of what I tell you to do. Like, I think that mentality is kind of drifting away, and it really has to be about empowering the individual. And I was there to serve the player. That's something I learned from Hayden Knowles, and I would recommend for any coach that's getting started. Take that attitude that you're there to serve the player, and in your initial conversation, you say, what would you like me to do for you? What would you like to get done here? What can I help you with? And if you're starting from that perspective, then you're going to find that athletes or private clients, either way, are going to be a lot more responsive to the things that you offer them, because you're solving their problem rather than just telling them what to do. Everywhere was a little bit different. Every player's got their thing, but I like the international nature of the groups that I worked with. I think I was lucky in that way.
Yeah, definitely. You always get that crazy group of Polynesian guys. Always a good laugh, aren't they?
There were some funny times.
Yeah, so like talking about individual players, like you've mentioned, Jared Hayne and Sonny Bill Williams. All the players you've worked with, who are some of like the hardest workers in the gym, the toughest trainers?
Yeah, I mean, Sonny was ready to do whatever you told him, questioning things and thinking about it. But he was the first one in there in a lot of days, and the guy in there on days off, and the last guy to leave the field. And he brought a lot of ethic to the team. And as a non-drinker, he had a powerful influence on the collective. The players decided 3 months out from the finals that they weren't going to for the rest of the season until the playoffs, basically. And that's probably, I would say, they would probably be the only team in rugby league history to ever make a decision like that. The playing unit, the players decided to do that. Obviously, we'd been trying to influence them towards good, positive decision making from the start of the season, from our beginning. And I dare say Trent Robinson may have planted some thoughts with a couple of guys before that thing was ratified by the leadership group and passed down into to the team. But that was huge. It was huge for the self-belief of the group, and to make that sort of sacrifice was massive. And I think having someone who's one of the key members of the team, who's a vocal non-drinker, I think that helped. And it made it okay for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Toops and some of the younger players who were playing really well for us. It was fine for them to play it however they wanted to. That sometimes young players get bullied into being heavy drinkers, and I know that happened to Sonny as a young player. And to not have that in our culture was really nice. There were a couple of guys there who definitely wanted to drink when they got the opportunity. Pretty big shift and pretty big sacrifice to get off it for that amount of time. There's a lot of drug dependence in rugby league, just like society as a whole. Prescription, non-prescription, social, whichever way. Drugs are a big part of elite sport, and we were no exception. But we made some shifts with that stuff. We tried to get off as much of the prescription stuff. I encouraged guys to get off as much prescription stuff as they could, and as much of the social stuff as they could, and that was powerful. I mean, Sonny was a great trainer. Boyd Cordner, was a really great trainer, really committed young kid. Probably, still, wanting to solve those lifestyle questions was a big challenge for him. Young guy probably always thought it was just about footy, but he's had lots and lots of injuries. He unfortunately just got injured again with State of Origin a couple of nights ago, and it's a shame, but that's sort of sometimes goes with the decisions that guys make. Most guys train hard for you if you set the environment, and if you care about what results they're going to get, and you're writing things down, and you're buzzing it up, and you're telling them what other guys got, or you play your cards and play the games that need to be played to make it exciting and to get the best out of guys. 9 out of 10 guys that I've worked with will do anything and do it as best they can. there is always that thing of having that extra decision of really taking yourself as far as you can go. That it's hard to instill in guys where they want to do that extra bit for themselves. A lot of those young French guys were really good with it. We really encouraged that, and they took it on. They did extra footwork drills, extra skills work. They wanted to stay on the field a bit longer, go and do extra video, come and try and do extra weights. It's great when you're around those guys who want to do that extra bit, and that's you're winning culture-wise when players are starting to take some ownership of whether they make it or not.
Yeah, I think you touched on a key one there, is that competition you create, whether it's chasing numbers. That sometimes it's not always the answer, but if it creates that competition in the gym, then you're onto a winner, aren't you?
If you're not in there to improve the numbers, then what are you in there for? Like, part of it's around injury prevention, but if you're doing a movement, you want to be doing it as well as you can. So you got to obviously be the quality control on that and say, that's not a good enough rep, even if you've made it. But we loved that competition. We did it around vertical jump and standing long jump, and you bring a game into the gym, and all of a sudden, people are producing 5, 10, 15% more than what they're going to produce without it. Sometimes you don't want that. You want to keep things calm and save it for the weekend. But I believe that everyone has a lot more force in them than what they're actually able to express. Whether it's speed, power, or maximum force. It's really about disinhibiting the body and teaching it that it can do it, teaching it that it's safe to produce that much force. So sometimes you need that extra mental cattle prod of competition, or those pressures bring out a little bit more from people. And I think the more often you bring that out, the more often it's going to be there. It's going to be there on game day if you keep bringing it out in blokes through the week as well.
Yeah. Now, I saw Sonny Bill Williams' testimonial for you, and he said that he doesn't normally do weights, but you got him to. Now, just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's naturally a muscular guy. He looks the picture, and I guess because of that, he's been allowed to just play his rugby and rugby league and get the results that he's got. It's hard to criticise, but he came back and he wasn't where he wanted to be. And you could see that from his first few footy games that he just didn't have that strength power that he needed. And so he bought in, and we worked really hard on a lot of things. And he'd had a lot of issues with his body. It's pretty well known that he'd had that degenerative knee type talk from pretty early in his career, and he'd had some serious back issues, and he'd come to us just off the back of a pec tear. So for us, it was about building resilience, and he understood that we weren't doing the weights to make him big. We were doing them to help his performance, to help him produce more force, produce that force quicker, and to make him more resilient, so he wouldn't get those injuries and niggles. And gradually over the course of the 2 years, his performances in the gym improved, and he became a lot more resilient. And some of those issues that he thought were going to shorten his career, became less. And I think that's why we formed a really tight bond. He was probably the player that I was closest with out of the group, and probably because his attitude to excellence and wanting to do things bigger and better, but also because we got a result there. And I think it's a small piece of the pie why he's able to do what he's doing now. And we had quite a bit of contact when he's going into the World Cup, and we stay in touch a little bit here and there. And it was great to have that connection with him. I think he probably has moved away from some of that weight training again. I know that different teams and different strength and conditioning coaches will always have different approaches. I think it made such a big impact for him because he hadn't put too much effort into it for a while, and he got a lot out of seeing himself go from one of the guys who wasn't at the top of the pack. He jumped in at the end of our first preseason, so I'd had those we had quite a long pre-season that first year, and we'd worked really hard with the guys with a lot of maximal lifting, and he sort of came in and saw everyone, and I think he was a little bit intimidated by it, or he didn't really want to be a part of the mix. So I coached him individually initially to help get things up to speed, and eventually, he got into it. He enjoyed the competitive environment. He hit some good numbers on his lifts, and became really one of the boys with that, and leading the way in some things. Everyone loves seeing themselves get better, and he's definitely no exception to that. So that's pretty addictive when you show people, you're improving, and if they feel it on the field as well, then it's self-perpetuating.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this is a question we ask all our guests on the podcast. What do you think is the biggest mistake rugby players make when it comes to strength and conditioning?
The biggest mistake is probably fucking up the chemistry of the body, with all the drugs. Whether it's alcohol, coffee, cigarettes, or the other stuff that they get from the pharmacy, sleepers, painkillers, antidepressants. I think that's the biggest mess up that's going on right now in professional sport, and it's just it's so prevalent in professional rugby league at the moment. It's really scary, and it's not the way it should be. It's definitely damaging guys' health, and I think it contributes to the suicide rates that we see in players. And that's one of the first things that I said, or at least a point that I always made with athletes that I was working with, was the number one priority is that nobody dies that I'm working with. And sometimes guys would giggle and think, what's he talking about? But it's something that happens. It's something that happens pretty much every year now. Junior NRL players, 20s or NRL guys, someone can't see a way out of the situation they're in, and often that stuff plays a huge role. Also, non-supportive social environments, staff who are not being on the same team as their athletes. A lot of clubs still have the army kind of mentality of you're going to do it because I tell you to do it. That's probably the biggest one. The mindset stuff is probably the other one, and then neither of them are probably what most S&Cs talk about. I could talk about we don't do enough maximal strength work, don't do enough posterior chain work, and I don't know. It's probably different in rugby. Rugby union in England, I think, has a big emphasis on maximal strength. It's probably a bit different to the clubs that I've been at, but that mindset thing of realising that the community that you create is the most powerful thing in your place is probably the other big one that's massively underestimated. I created a community of strength coaches a couple of years ago, and the idea was that it would be a business and something that would serve me to look after my family, and also to get great results with guys, help them get into professional teams, help them feel confident, know that technically what they needed to get to that level. To run a business. But the biggest thing that has actually come out of it is just being connected to a great bunch of people. It's just been massively life enhancing for me. It's been a huge growth experience just to be around people who are trying to improve themselves all the time. And I think that's the biggest challenge. You can get players wanting to improve themselves, then you're winning. Get them wanting to work for you. And that culture and buzz that goes with that. Give them the experience of being better than they were yesterday. That's the hashtag I use, better than yesterday. Give them that experience as often as possible, with as many things as possible. People think because it's maybe not 100% sports specific that it's not performance enhancing. Anything where you enhance someone's self-belief is performance enhancing. Right? I don't give a shit what it is. If you can get people doing things that they thought were impossible for them, then it's performance enhancing. If that athlete doesn't think he's a good reader, and you get him reading books and realising he's not a freaking idiot, that's performance enhancing. He's going to be a better player for you, and he's going to be more connected to you. My brother's just gone. He's the head coach at Bradford Bulls now. Those guys are back up into Super League. When my dad actually coached him when they first went into Super League, he's just gone to Bradford Bulls. But at Gold Coast, he was at the Titans and as an assistant just before he went over there. And he had a book club going. It started with photocopying a few pages for one player that he thought would help him, and it became 6 or 8 players that were stealing books off his shelf in his office, on a regular basis, taking them and talking to each other about what they'd been reading, and they've been overachieving, the Titans, and you can't correlate it to how many books your club reads to how many games you're going to win, but whenever you're giving people that experience that they're capable of more than what they thought they were, then you're winning. So we did juggling, we did handstands, we played all sorts of different games and challenges. There was always a challenge in every session. It might be wide grip chin-ups into wide grip pull-ups into close grip pull-ups into underhand chin-ups. Total for max reps. It might be the finisher of the session. It's one set, but it means that there's a challenge within that session. There's an opportunity for guys to express themselves and to be challenged. And we did that. We did that every session. We try to bring it into warm-ups before field sessions as well. We would do that. So they're my big two. I snuck an extra one in there, but that optimizing the chemical environment and moving away from the shit that's bringing people down in society, but also with our elite athletes is one that I'm really passionate about, and it just makes a 10% difference in performance. Where we're looking for 1% or 0.5% here and there, the change in that is massive. Even Ed Cohen, powerlifters will talk about 10% improvement when you get that shit out of your lifestyle. So that's something I believe very powerfully in and deeply in, and the mindset stuff of just continually giving guys wins and showing them that they're more than what they thought they were. They can do more than they thought they could.
Yeah, that's great. I think one thing that's come over the more and more podcasts I've done with strength coaches is that it's more that human touch. It's it's finding ways to get the best out of them, motivate them, keep them enthused, and sometimes programming goes out the window just to get that, but it's more important in the long run.
Yeah, program to build the environment. People think, you're fucking crazy if you say stuff like that. You're meant to be a strength and conditioning coach, but program to manipulate your environment. If your session's not going to create a great environment, rewrite the session. I don't care. Write it to fit the gym that you're in, the equipment that you've got, and write it so that when guys do it, they're going to feel a huge buzz. They're going to feel like they're invincible. They're going to feel like they've done stuff they couldn't do before. And they're going to go out and do the same thing on the weekends. That's what I believe in. You still got your principles of strength and conditioning under that, but someone who thinks they're going to win a competition based on copying principles out of Russian texts, the Russians understood it as well. If you look at Verkhoshansky's research on plyometrics, he says if you don't put a target for the athlete to reach, it doesn't work. Yeah. So everyone talks about plyometrics and stuff, but no one talks about that. You got to keep prodding them for numbers. If you're not screaming the number out of what they get when they make a lift or when they do a jump or whatever, if you're not asking them, hey, today I need 8 blokes to do a number they haven't done before, I need 8 PBs. If you're not asking for that, you won't get it. I guarantee you. If you ask for it, you'd be very surprised at how much improvement you can get and how much engagement you get.
Yeah, it's great advice.
It makes it fun for the coach as well. If you're not buzzing about a session, I guarantee you the players aren't going to be either. You got to bring that. You may be able to squeak by occasionally where you're not the most excited guy in the room, but you generally want to be there and be excited about it. And I know that when I programmed a month stuff in advance, and players had already done the session 2 or 3 times, there's the excitement level there. No one's going to be as excited about that. If you can be, then maybe it'll work for you. But for the most part, there's got to be a place in there where people can express themselves. And I copy that off Mark Bitkin. He's one of the most successful coaches there in Great Britain in the rugby union, rugby league sort of scene. Works with Wigan, I think, still.
Yep.
One of his former players actually said to me, hey, I used to have Mark Bitkin. He's the best strength coach I've worked with. I never repeated the same session. Yeah. And I was like, you what? You never repeated the same session. How do you do that in strength and conditioning? Like, it's all about building on what you've just done. It's all about consistency, adaptation. Does this guy not know anything? What's going on here? No periodization. How are we getting consistently so physical? And how's he got the record that he's got? And I know he's worked with England rugby as well. And Steve Mack, who was the England coach, worked with him and had huge raps on him. And he's always a guy that I really respected. And hearing that, I was like, shit. And this player was, deeply impacted by that, touched by it. And he this guy was like 37, I think, at that time. He was playing at Toulon in France. I went and visited Toulon rugby with Steve Walsh, who's another guy who's influenced me quite a bit. But yeah, I was blown away by that, and so I did it, and it worked, and I still, you still have consistency, you still have threads of things that you're continuing, and you work under the same logic, but if you never repeat in the same session, it worked. You go into an environment excited, and it works. It's not the only way to do things. There's definitely no one way to do this stuff. That's the art of what we do, which is, both sides are exciting. I love the science, but if you're not thinking about the art, then you're missing out.
Yeah, definitely. Keegan, tell us a bit more about the Real Movement project and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so that humanitarian side of what I do has always sort of been there. Like I always wanted to change the world, and as much as winning NRL competition was a big thing, and it helped me to have a bit more impact. My ambition is to give everybody on earth the opportunity to live by that philosophy of better than yesterday. And most people haven't been brought up in an environment where that's there, like the opportunity, like better than yesterday. Like, are you really? How many people do you know who are actually consciously decided that they want to improve every single day for the rest of their life? There's not that many, and that's I guess what I've decided to dedicate the rest of my life to. Until I think of something better to do, that's what you should do. Find a problem and keep trying to solve it until you find a better one, or one that fulfills you. And I think that's a fulfilled life. I feel I'm enjoying chasing after it. What do? We run workshops. We've got one coming up in Ireland that you want to mention. One in France, but that one's going to be in French. And then a 4-day intensive in Spain. We teach a lot of stuff that's not really well taught in strength and conditioning. Things that a lot of it I've actually learnt since I left the Roosters, but some from that time as well. But we teach. There's a big emphasis on mobility. There's a big emphasis on holistic nutrition, next level sort of mindset stuff around sort of manifesting your future, and meditation, and modulating your own hormones through techniques of breathing and thought stuff. We teach force, power, basic lifts, and basics of programming. Now, this is what we do in the 2-day workshops, and then the 4-day ones are really like masterminding. So, we're bringing together coaches from around the world. We just recently did one in Bali. That's the one that's going to be in Spain soon. We do Byron Bay pretty often, which is the best place in Australia, in my opinion. That's where I'm talking from right now. Those 4 days, it's like a masterminding thing where we bring people together who are already on this wavelength of trying to be the best they can be, and then we talk about what needs to happen. And a lot of it's around business as well as the physical stuff and self-development, and what's your biggest barrier, and getting shit up, getting emotional stuff out of the way so that we can express ourselves more fully. Is sort of what goes on those 4-day adventures. And then we run webinars each week. We have a Facebook group. We do physical testing. We support each other's growth in social media and building websites. And it's basically everything that you need to do to have a big impact. I'm just trying to help people have more impact. And collectively now we're reaching tens of thousands of people. Probably hundreds of thousands of people every day. There's a lot of guys there who've got 10,000, 15,000 member social media followings, and we all sort of leverage and share each other's stuff, and I'm not ashamed of that. Like this is what it's about. It's about trying to change the world, and we've got this opportunity at the moment with some free advertising opportunities, and if, I guess we can get ideas out, we can get content out to give people a different perspective on this thing, because the dominant paradigm when I grew up was a lot of stuff was driven by fear, a lot of stuff was trying not to fail. Even trying to win, it's never been about trying to win. Even at the Roosters, I told Trent Robinson, I'm not here because I want to win. I'm here because I want to see improvement every day in myself and in the guys, and that's what we went for. And I think when you get on that creative plane, Bob Proctor's a huge influence of mine. He's an American success kind of philosophist, and he sort of talks about you can either be on the competitive plane or the creative one, and the creative one is where amazing shit happens. So trying to get away from that idea of competing against other businesses and competing against other lifts or whatever, and just think about, best case scenario, if you applied yourself every day for the rest of your life, like where could you get to? And that's kind of how I try and start, every day, and what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to express things physically that make people go like, shit, maybe this guy is worth listening to. And then I'm trying to build a community of, facilities and people that do the same thing. We work with 40 plus facilities around the world now. We want some of those facilities to be 7-figure, facilities, in Aussie dollars, making 500,000 quid plus a year, is what we're working towards, because I know if they're making that money, then the influence that's going to be had by them and by the community is going to be massive. So, things have shifted. I used to be kind of scared of money and anti-money, and I've never had any background in business, but now I run a decent sized business with a few employees, and making a lot more money than I could have ever imagined. We had success at the Roosters, and the opportunity that was there to make some really good money, more than I could imagine. But I stepped away from it to do this thing because it's what I'm passionate about, and I know that we're going to link back, and we're going to run the strength and conditioning for a lot of elite athletes. I want to work with some Olympic teams going into the next Olympics, and some Olympic athletes. And some team sports as well. So that's what we're building towards. We're building the group of coaches and the training systems and the culture to do that. It's early days, but I'm excited for the future. We're 2 years in. I'm 33. I'm excited for what things are going to look like when I'm 35. We're 4 years into this thing.
Yeah, that's really exciting, and it sounds like it's already going very well for you. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, I mean, if you look up Real Movement Project, you're going to find a lot of stuff from us. realmovementproject.com. We've got Real Movement Project on Facebook. There's still some Keegan Smith stuff out there. Instagram, Facebook, Keegan Smith. Basically always posting things that I think will contribute to coaches getting better results and athletes getting better results. Snapchat, Keegan Smith Live. I'm loving Snapchat at the moment. I don't know if it's big over there in the UK, but it's actually a lot more fun than the other social medias. You just kind of let it flow. We're there on Instagram, and we're trying to get messages out as much as we can, or as well as we can. Good stuff. So that's kind of probably the best ways to do this stuff. Growing our team all the time. So if this fully resonates with you, then get in touch, and we'll see if there's a connection that we can make. Helped a lot of guys to get into professional sports teams or open facilities, and I want to do a lot more of that. That's what I left the NRL to do, and that's what I'm loving doing. So.
Awesome, and of course we'll share all the links to all your social on when we send the podcast out. But Keegan, thanks ever so much. It's been really enlightening to hear all your experiences, and again highlighting that importance of the human touch when it comes to dealing with strength and conditioning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for the amazing work that you're doing. Like, it's not about Real Movement Project. I guess it's really about better than yesterday, and everyone who's living by that. You don't get up early in the morning to make podcasts if you're not trying to improve the world and improve yourself. So, well done to you and to all your audience, and looking forward to connecting more in the future. I'm going to be over there in England visiting my brother in a couple of months, so hopefully we'll get the chance to catch up, or maybe you'll come down and get some sun in Spain. Who knows? Thanks heaps for having me on, and hope we get to spend some more time together in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. Keegan, absolute pleasure. Thanks, mate.
Champion, talk to you soon.
So there you go. I hope you persisted and got through that bad audio at the start, and I'm sure you'll agree it was a great interview. Lots of information there from Keegan, and we'd like to thank him. Really interesting, I thought he said about the variety and how that gets a lot out of the guys. Obviously, he said you need some consistency so you can adapt and show progression, but also that variety just creates competition and makes things a bit more fun as well. And that's one of the things we like to put in with the Rugby Renegade programming, which if you haven't joined up, please sign up at www.rugbyrenegade.com. At the moment, we're giving away a free nutrition ebook on sign up. So it's a great time to get involved, especially with pre-season coming up in the Northern Hemisphere. Get in shape, ready for the season. Otherwise, we've got loads of ebooks if you want to fit your training around the Southern Hemisphere season. And of course, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more podcasts on the way. So please sign up, whether you use Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, or obviously iTunes. Please subscribe to us and give us a good review. And we'll keep them coming. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Rugby Renegade Podcast. For more quality rugby strength and conditioning information, check us out at rugbyrenegade.com. Rugby Renegade, building machines.